Hey, it's Chris. Today we're going to go over some last minute final iPad Pro rumors before the upcoming Apple event. Some of these, I should add, actually caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting these. And we're just going to kick things off by talking about the rumor that blew me away, that made me say, what? Right off the bat, but also got me really excited. And that was the rumor that we're not going to be getting the expected M3 chip, but actually the M4. What the rumors are saying is that Apple's making a big AI play. That's old news at this point. In fact, Apple's kind of behind all the other big tech companies in terms of getting in on AI. But they're also saying that the new iPad Pro could be the first foray into AI-centric devices. AI requires a lot of power, and even the M2 is pretty good. Apple Silicon in general is really great. It's geared towards AI already for other AI uses. Now it's time for Apple to get out of the game. So the M3 would be great, but if the M4 actually comes, that would be truly, totally, completely ridiculous. And also, it's not totally implausible if Apple skips the M3 altogether and gets that M4 slotted in. A lot of the stuff that people use their iPad for, even the iPad Pro, really doesn't require heavy-duty, hard-hitting chips. So a lot of people end up buying the iPad Pro over the air, just looking for something that's gonna work long-term for them really well, stay fast, far into the future. I, for one, would love to see the iPad be the first device to have the honor of getting an M4 chip inside. That would be kind of an odd, strange turn of events, wouldn't it? Because Apple usually focuses on the Macs as its powerhouse device. So if this turns out to be the case, I feel like that's Apple making a pretty big statement about where they see the iPad going in the future. If we just see the M3, I'm going to celebrate. If it's the M4, I'm going to expect huge things on the software side of things. Now, the next rumor is that we're going to see a dynamic island. That, of course, is something that's already been around on iPhones for quite a while now. Now, people need to think this through. For everybody out there who's like, Apple's been calling this an all-screen design for a long time, but we all know it has pretty thick bezels on there, right? Well, you also want that camera to move, right, from the left to what you would view as the top if you're using this on the Magic Keyboard. So many people are clamoring for that. Well, what if Apple stuck that in the dynamic island? Are you going to be happy about that? People haven't loved the camera being over on the left there, but certain rumors have pointed to Apple shrinking those bezels by 10 to 15%. And if they do that, then you're going to end up with some kind of a notch with the way the camera equipment is sitting there. So I actually think that a dynamic island on the iPad isn't the craziest thing that could ever happen. In fact, when it came to the iPhone, I first thought that was going to be really weird, but I really liked Apple's implementation. In fact, it almost felt kind of magic. It was one of the coolest things Apple did in a long time in terms of the software. Of course, it was there to just camouflage the camera equipment, but that was almost an afterthought for users who just ended up liking interacting with it and liking the way information interacted with and stored itself and displayed itself in the dynamic island. So I actually think that could be, with an asterisk, very interesting and cool. Real quick, if you haven't already, check out my new course, Freeform Unleashed. It's gonna help you go way beyond the basics of my favorite Apple app. Of course, you can also still check out my Learning to Be Productive course, which will help you get more done in less time in the Apple ecosystem with less burnout. But something else that kind of caught me off guard was the rumors regarding the new Apple Pencil. I've been hearing all these rumors about a new Apple Pencil, which maybe has some new textured magnetic tips that you could swap in and out. And those never really made a ton of sense to me. We'll see if that's what ends up debuting, if that turns into something that's cool or valuable. But I hadn't heard yet, I hadn't even considered really the idea of Apple adding some haptic feedback to the Apple Pencil. Now that is an idea that really strikes my fancy. Does anyone say that anymore? Strikes my fancy? But anyways, if you could give me some feedback when I'm writing, when I'm doing stuff with this, I think that makes a lot of sense. In fact, it seems like a no-brainer. So haptic feedback would be awesome. I really hope that that comes, in fact. And the other thing that I'm starting to see rumors about is that we might get some new gestures. We obviously have this double tap capacitive touch button here, but it's rumored that maybe Apple's going to introduce some other gestures like a squeeze functionality so that you could change tools by squeezing or functions by squeezing. And that seems really cool too. So, these are all things that weren't on anybody's radar. And then when you hear about it, you're like, oh yeah, Apple could really push the envelope still when it comes to the Apple Pencil. And then you get really excited. At least I do. Now, it's been rumored for quite a while that we might see a redesigned Magic Keyboard. And the biggest rumor so far seems to be that we might get a bigger trackpad. Now, I don't know about you, but I would generally consider that a bonus. However, that in and of itself is not enough of a reason for me to either get a new Magic Keyboard or to call it redesigned. So I would expect there to be other new enhancements, redesigned, rethought features and functionality if we're going to get a new Magic Keyboard. And frankly, I hope that's the case. I like the Magic Keyboard, but we need a row of function keys here. I would love to see some more ports on the iPad itself, but if we can't get that, I would love to see those come to the Magic Keyboard as well. Who knows what you could do? You could throw some speakers in there. But the thing is, it's really heavy at the moment, so I definitely want a lighter Magic Keyboard. And maybe the offset is going to be just that the iPad Pro itself ends up being lighter. I could see that. You know, if you want to shave some pounds off of this and then bulk up the keyboard a little bit and keep things net as heavy as they are as a combo, okay. But then what about the display? We're probably looking at OLED. That's fine. I think we've all gotten used to that idea by this point. It's rather expected if Apple does something different or doesn't go with that. It's not going to be the end of the world for me. Obviously, it makes sense. This is Apple's top-of-the-line iPad, so it should have top-of-the-line screen technology. OLED is top of the line. There's pros and cons to everything, including OLED, but still, I would love to use an OLED. For me, though, personally, OLED is a nice-to-have, not necessarily something that I need. And maybe you feel differently. I'm pretty happy with this 12.9-inch and the micro LEDs at the moment. I really optimize for Apple Pencil usage, so I do use a paper-like on here as screen protector. This is not sponsored. I'm just letting you know that when I'm using my iPad Pro, it's typically not when I'm optimizing for 4K HDR sort of content. So if that's what you're optimizing for that entertainment and or for doing any sort of professional photo or video editing, then you may feel differently than me. But of course, I've got the Apple Display back here, and that system seems to work pretty well for me if I need to do any serious professional color grading type of stuff. And that's the thing, everyone uses this differently, so your mileage is definitely going to vary. Let's just put it this way. Is anybody going to complain if the iPad Pro gets better color and contrast? No. On the other hand, is anybody going to complain if they upgrade the cameras? Well, a better question for a lot of people is, why would they upgrade the cameras? A lot of people are puzzled why Apple sticks such nice camera hardware on the back of the iPad at least. A lot of people use their iPad for FaceTime or for meetings, and it makes sense to upgrade that camera in everybody's mind on the front of the iPad. But on the back, a lot of people don't even end up using that. I mean, if Apple ends up bringing enhanced autofocus and HDR capabilities, does that change the equation for you? I actually think, and don't shoot the messenger because again, everything's subjective. People are going to use this differently. But if this had better cameras on the back, more like the current flagship iPhone, I think I would use it in my studio setting to do some shooting, maybe against the green screen, for instance, or just for some product shots. I could certainly see bringing this with me to events and using it to edit stuff on the go without having to bring all my camera stuff. I would be that guy if the camera was the right camera. And I don't really care what people think about it. I'm going to use it how I want to use it. Again, the ability to shoot, edit, and publish all on the same device is pretty awesome, pretty unheard of. That's not something you can do with just a standalone camera. You could do it on an iPhone, but who wants to on that tiny display? It's one of the reasons why the iPad could break out in that particular category and use case, especially in this day and age where so many people are content creators. It doesn't matter if you're trying to be big on, let's say, YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, or if you need to make ads for your small business. Everybody can benefit from this technology. So I'm actually pretty excited for it. What about if wireless charging made an appearance on the iPad? Would that sway you? Would that bring you over to wanting to upgrade? For all the people out there who are like, I'm cool, my iPad's good, I got the M1, it's all I really need, not that much is different, nothing's really changed, I'm just gonna wait until the wheels fall off, so to speak. Well, I don't know. This isn't one of those things that's like, yeah, that's a reason to upgrade necessarily, but it could be interesting on the accessory side of things. If we start to see more of a modular accessories market take shape, it's not just about the charging, it's about what you can do as a system. The rumors are saying maybe this is going to turn into a glass back design to help facilitate that wireless charging. I don't know. That sounds like it could be kind of fragile. Maybe you're going to need to have some kind of case on there that also charges. And what can you do with the case? Well, there's a lot of things you could do with the case, obviously, besides just adding a keyboard. So I think that could potentially open up a whole new realm of possibilities and exciting things for what you can do with an iPad, which of course is the strength of the iPad. It's the iPad, it's modular, it can turn into whatever you need it to on the fly, rip the screen off, put it back on the keyboard, use the stylus, don't use the stylus, lounge on the couch or the bed or a chair, type on your lap if you want to. So flexible. So what I do see is if there's some sort of new charging system or ports, because both things are rumored, whether that's MagSafe or some other kind of connector, I'm on board because there's going to be some reason for it. All right, so what about the launch timing and the pricing? The launch is now expected in early May. And here's the bad news. There is an expected price increase, unfortunately, due to all the new features. Oftentimes, Apple says, check out everything that we've added to whatever the new device is. And look, we kept the price exactly the same. But I don't know if we're going to get away with that in this environment in terms of inflation and where we're at with the economy, and when you add new stuff into the mix, like we're hopefully going to be seeing here. What I can tell you is I'm going to be all over this event, this coverage. I'm going to check out the new iPad, so make sure you're subscribed if you're not already, because I'm going to explore every nook and cranny, every tip and trick. I'm going to put everything through its paces. I'm going to compare the new and old iPads. I'm going to compare the iPad to other hardware. So big plans. I know a lot of people think of this as the iPad channel or an iPad channel. And though I cover other things, it's the iPad content that people really love from Daily Tech these days. So I will be all over it. Make sure you're subscribed. Don't forget to check out the courses. So maybe the best accessory for your new iPad purchase is Freeform Unleashed, because it's going to help you do more with this great device. I think that's about it. Let me know what you're excited about down in the comments. I'll catch you in the next video. Later.